Innovation, Science and Industry Minister Francois Philippe Champagne is in Toronto today, taking care of some business. But first, he stopped by our studio. Minister, good to see you. Thanks for joining us on CP24 Breakfast.
What a better way to start the day than be with you?
Well, I'd have to say I agree with you, so thanks for doing that. I know you're going to be down at the auto show today. What else brings you to Toronto? Why are you here?
Well, first of all, we have Black History Month. So we're going to be starting the morning with Black entrepreneurs. You know, we want to make sure that we have a more inclusive, I would say, community when it comes to AI and the tech sector. So it's quite fascinating because, you know, Toronto is kind of the capital of attraction of talent. You know, people want to come here, and we want to make sure that we give opportunities, that we look at how we can make sure that this ecosystem reflects the fabric of Canadian society. And so I'm going to be with a number of executives in the sectors that are promoting the next generation. So if there's, you know, if you're younger and you're watching the program, there's a space for you. And, you know, the tech sector is booming in the country.
Indeed, yeah.
So, and then the auto show, you're right. You know, Canada now ranks first in the world. We have surpassed China for the battery ecosystem. This is quite
that's news.
extraordinary.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
The big thing, we're you know, in all the auto shows in the world this year, Canada is really number one. We own the podium. Bloomberg ranked us first in the world now for the battery ecosystem. You've heard of Stellantis, you've heard of Volkswagen, you've heard of Nordvolt. Yesterday, you may have seen GM and Panasonic making a further investment. So this is great because, you know, this is not just about jobs, this is about careers. This is like a generational shift. You know, I was with the CEO of Stellantis yesterday. He said, God, you know, in Canada, you really know how to do things because you capture some of the most exciting part of this, you know, generational transformation, which is going towards electric vehicle. And then after that, we're going to talk about Canada-US. You know, when you're here...
It's a pretty big relationship.
Well, this is existential for us. It's all about prosperity, security, and resiliency. You know, we're more integrated than ever. And I always say, you know, not everyone wakes up in the morning thinking about Canada. You and I do that, and I'm sure the viewers. But, you know, when you go to Washington and everywhere, you always have to bring back why a decision on one side of the border matters to both sides. And millions of people depend on that key relationship. Critical minerals, we talk about biomanufacturing, we talk about the energy sector. So a lot of the things are nonpartisan. It's just about making North America more resilient. So bringing the message, talking to Premier Ford, how we can do that. Ontario is a big, obviously, partner when we do that with our friends down south.
And there's a pretty big election coming up down south, which you sort of alluded to, the existential threat indeed. Let's just circle back to the EV and the battery manufacturing in particular, because as you know, Minister, there is criticism about how much both the federal and provincial governments are kind of opening up their wallets to these mega companies to bring these companies in. How do you respond to that criticism? Because some people say it's corporate welfare or it's almost too much to bring it in. How do you counter that argument, or what do you say to that argument?
Well, listen, we're not like an island in the Pacific. You know, our competition is down south, so you have to respond somehow to what happened in the United States. But I would say we got them on the cheap. Trust me, Premier Ford and I are pretty cheap. So we got them on the cheap. And I can tell you, I was with the CEO of Stellantis, who managed business all in North America, and he said, you know what, every country where he has been operating would want to get what we have. And you have to remember that most of that is based on production support. So actually, these investments that they made, the company are putting much more than we're putting, obviously. But you have to think also, what's the opportunity cost? If we did not do that, what would happen to the auto sector? I mean, when I look at that, I say, listen, I think when people are going to look back 10 years from now, they're going to see that we were visionary, because this is a supply chain that's going to create and maintain hundreds of thousands of jobs. You know, the auto sector is a big part of the economy in the country and in Ontario. A lot of families depend on that. And, you know, when I started as industry minister, was really a choice. Do we let that go, or we take that generational opportunity? Because you and I probably will see only once in our lifetime a shift like that. You go from the, you know, the combustion engine to the electric engine, and you say to the electric car, and you say, God, are we seizing the opportunity? And that's why, for me, when I'm going to write the book, it's going to be about momentum. You seize the momentum, you get there, you get the investments. And, you know, just to give you an example, when we're looking at Volkswagen, it's going to pay back multiple times, and it's going to create tens of thousands of jobs. And I think, you know, we want to make sure that we give back to the next generation. You and I have been benefiting from investments that were made far before we came. And that, for me, is giving back to the next generation, putting them on a footing to win in the 21st century.
Speaking about the terms momentum and competition, how is the momentum building in terms of getting more competition in Canada's grocery sector? I know you've been kind of calling around to other international grocers to try to bring it in, because we do hear that is the problem in Canada, is getting competition to bring prices down. And how is your government's pitch to grocers going? Because I think a lot of us haven't really seen much change in our bills. You made that promise around Thanksgiving last year. Not a whole lot changed. And Metro came out and said, we're actually going to boost prices.
Yeah, well, listen, it's a tough fight, but it's a good fight. Canadians, when I walk in the street, say, keep up the good fight. Like I said, am I going to succeed? I don't know. Is it worth the fight? Definitely. The best way to bring down prices and stabilize prices is competition. What we've seen in Canada is a concentration that happened over decades in the country. And the best way to stabilize prices over the midterm to the long term is to have more competition. That's why we reform competition law. And I think that's probably the single most important piece of legislation when it comes to the economy, because Canadians have seen it. We have a pretty concentrated economy. You look back and you say it's true in many sectors of the economy. The other thing I've done is to go back and talk to foreign grocers, the deep discounters, to say, hey, have you thought about Canada?
Are they interested?
Listen, so far they're listening and they're engaging with me. I'll tell you why. Because before we changed the law, there was these clauses in leases that would prevent, if you had one major grocers in one suit, in one plaza, usually you would have restrictive conditions in the lease that would prevent anyone coming around for a number of kilometers. We made these restrictive clauses illegal if they prevent competition. I can tell you, I met with the CEO of one of the largest grocery in in the United States. And he was telling me, he said, Minister, we tried to enter the Canadian market years ago, but no one would give us the leases that we needed. So now he said, if you change that, you change market dynamics, we're far more interested. So we have ongoing discussion. Is it easy? No. Am I going to succeed? I don't know. But is it worth the fight? Definitely.
We'll certainly cross our fingers, because I know a lot of people are feeling the pinch at the grocery stores these days. Industry Minister Francois Philippe Champagne, appreciate meeting you today. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much for having me to start the day.